Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of Saturday Morning Lounge. Basically, it's a business-minded podcast slash live interview style. We're here with Devin Kennedy from Kennedy Health and Wellness, as well as his coaching. First off, we are sponsored by Flashback Antique and Crafts. We are located inside of Mall of Monroe, and they provide different vendors and shopping experiences. Also by Brainjerk Entertainment, the one place to get all the entertainment that you need from Monroe and local surroundings. And we'll dive in with Devin Kennedy, and he'll give you a little bio of what he does.
Hi guys. So my name's Coach Kennedy. But most of my kids in the last few years have adapted the nickname Coach K. It's just fun for them as it gets things kind of exciting. Obviously, the legendary Coach K. So it brings some excitement to the kids. I grew up here in Michigan, here in Monroe. I bounced around Monroe County a little bit growing up. Graduated from Erie Mason. That's currently where I coach high school football as well as work in the weight room with various athletes. So to share a little bit of my background, like everybody else, I had a lot of trials and tribulations growing up between family problems, issues with school. I had a hard time being a student, to be honest, when I was a kid, which is part of the reason why I coach so hard today in that area of the classroom, because I know what it means. Long story short, I had a lot of things growing up that really pushed me to stay involved in sports. Between my home life, family issues that was going on with whether it was parents or grandparents, sisters, work schedules were heavy. I found my out in sports, right? That's where I found my peace, my calm, my passion. So it was within various sports growing up. From Pee Wee all the way to high school, I've played baseball, I've played football, I've played basketball. I've played soccer for multiple years. I've played recreational volleyball. So I've done pretty much every sport you can think of. Tennis, I played recreational tennis for a while. Every sport you can think of, I have found my out in those sports and that passion for being active and just being competitive. Right, I find good in being competitive, and I find it makes me elevate to be a better person when there's a common goal for a team or a person, something we're trying to get to. So that's what really pushed me to coach at the beginning was all the things that were going on in my early life. It forced me to find something to stay out of trouble, find intention. I'm going to talk about intention later, but intention is the number one thing you have to have in sports, coaching, life, business, all of it. If you don't move with intention, you don't have anywhere to go. So you just float, right? And you don't really make the right decisions and right moves. So all those things brought me to play sports. When I got done playing sports, I'll be honest with you guys, my dreams of playing college athletics fell short. I was dealing with some things with a family death that had occurred way earlier in my life that really challenged me at a young age. I went through a lot of stuff and I didn't hit that goal, right? So as I got older, I started to have two real passions as I really grew up from teens into grown kind of adulthood. And even now I'm still growing these passions, obviously, every day. But the two passions I started to gain were business and coaching. I started to want to go back and help the kids that maybe were in my shoes or maybe were in worse shoes than me, or even kids that have good situations but need the tools to go get recruited or to go hit all their goals from a team perspective. Or so I really, as I got older, really wanted to get back into coaching and find a way to help the kids that were in my shoes, be who I needed when I was younger, if that makes sense. So that's really what got me into coaching, got me down that road. I started at Triumph Academy. A lot of you people in Monroe, a lot of our Monroe people probably know Triumph. I coached basketball there. Henry Jones was the first guy. Shout out Coach Jones. He's over at Airport now. He gave me my first shot in coaching, so I have the utmost respect for him. I coached basketball for a couple years, and then I took a year off because I was working heavy at an auto plant at the time and was trying to figure out where I wanted to go with my life before actually jumping into football coaching at Summit Academy. So great guy, one of the legendary coaches I believe in this state, Al Demps, hired me in at Summit Academy, brought me in under his wing. I was with him at Summit and Wayne Memorial. So for those of you who might not know, Wayne Memorial is in arguably the best conference in the state of Michigan. So I've coached against and with some of the best coaches and players in the state. I've coached against Belleville, River Rouge. I've coached with some incredible coaches that came from those schools. So it's really been a great experience. I spent the last 3 years at Romulus. I feel it's important to share that because as coaches, it's about the kids and it's about what we can do with them. I heard something a long time ago. As a coach, your number one goal should be to get somebody where they could not get themselves alone, right? So if somebody needs a personal trainer, for example, they're looking to lose weight. Let's say they necessarily don't have the knowledge or the accountability to go do it every day. So that's the job of the coach, is to get that person where they couldn't necessarily get themselves, and it's to do it within building that relationship and within a positive manner so they have a positive experience while they do it. If not, then it ruins it for everybody. So those things are super important. And Romulus, the reason I want to share is I learned a lot at Romulus about coaching, about the mental side of coaching. We were big on mental health and make sure that our kids were good every day in school, good with their personal lives and just all aspects of life. I learned so much in the last 3 years there. We graduated. If I had to guess, to be honest, I could go get the numbers, but I'd say we graduated probably 90% of our kids over there,
Awesome.
which is great. We have numerous kids from there playing at schools. We can watch games right now at Concordia, Davenport, down in South Carolina. We have a kid playing. So we have kids that we really were able to push and mold and get them again where they wanted to go. We just have a kid that I'm not there currently, but a senior that I coached the last 3 years just got his first offer to Olivet. So it's really about pushing the kids and getting them where they want to go, where they set their goals to go, and making sure you give them the right tools in the belt to do it, making sure they're technicians and they're making good choices. And now I'm at Erie Mason. So I graduated from there, played sports there. I'm actually coaching with a teacher of mine in high school. He's the
Oh,
head
that's
coach.
awesome.
So I'm working with him, coaching all phases of football. So I'm on special teams, I'm on offense, defense. I'm taking kids to camps. We just went to U of M yesterday. Awesome camp up there. So we're really doing a lot. And then as far as the training side of things, to tap back into Romulus for a minute, when I was over there, I coached with a guy, and I have to shout him out, Charles Searcy, best coach that I personally have ever coached with. Guy is phenomenal, and I always make sure to give him the utmost respect and credit. He trained athletes on the side, and when he was doing this, I was seeing the way that not only was he transforming the kids from an athletic perspective all over downriver, but the kids were staying out of trouble. They were staying committed to going to him. They were showing up to more school. Everything was kind of trickling, right? So it really made me want to start doing that. The problem was when you're in an area where there's already multiple people doing that, it's a little tough. So being able to come home, when I came home to Mason, it did multiple things for me. It brought me to a place where there's kind of more of an opening for that, but it also brought me back home where now I can help Monroe, I can help the ALCC, I can help Erie, I can help these communities that I grew up in. Now I can give back to my community, right? By doing the same things. And that's where the training and the performance stuff comes in. I don't even like using the word training because I prefer the word coaching, but everybody sees it as training, right? So that's where that came in. And just to touch on that introduction just a bit, we train a current volleyball team downriver right now. We're doing their sports performance coaching. So everything in the weight room we're doing with them, speed and agility, injury prevention, making sure they learn how to warm up properly and stretch properly, making sure they have nutrition available to them. We do it all. So making sure
So
that their phones are available, our phones are available if they need something. So
would you
um,
say that is the biggest difference between trainers versus coaches? Because a lot of people probably mistake like personal trainers for the same thing as like coaches when it comes to athletics.
I
Or
would
is it
say
different?
that's a big part of it to me. And the coaches and people see things different. We all have our own philosophies, ways of viewing things. But to me, there's a lot of, like everything, things in today's world have become very crowded in certain areas,
Yeah.
right? And to me, there's a lot of people who used to play sports or lifted weights when they were younger, and they charge $20 and they say, come out and I'm going to throw some cones on the ground and I'm going to make you guys do this drill, or I'm going to make you guys lift weights.
Yeah.
And that to me is the big difference and that's one difference in a trainer and a coach. A coach has a plan and a progression for each person or each team specific to them. So for example, if I have a kid that's super strong, but his vertical is horrible or he is very injury prone, we're going to work with him differently than we're going to work with a kid that maybe is super durable, never has any injuries, he's super fast. Like, we're going to work with kids specific to what they need and coach them specific to how they need it. And I feel like that's the difference in a lot of coaches and trainers. Is trainers a lot of times will try to put you in a gym or put you on grass or on a turf, and they want you to do these drills and it'll make you faster. And a lot of the times, to be honest, it's lack of preparation. That's, to me, the difference in a coach and a trainer. Is a coach has spent the time to put in not just the knowledge, but the experience, the reps, bad reps, good reps. I've had good days coaching, bad days, all of it. You have to put it all into the pot for the experience, right? And I feel like we have so many trainers nowadays that it's getting flooded, because especially when COVID hit, what got really popular? Fitness, health, wellness. And then it was like everywhere you turn, somebody was a trainer. And it's like, you got to, as a client, for those of you who may be listening, you really have to check the background, right? You got to be resourceful. You got to check and see what they've done from an education standpoint, maybe who they're coaching now. Go talk to who they're coaching now. But you really have to search for those details to know, like, whether you're really going to be with somebody that's going to help you develop, or whether it's going to be somebody that has maybe a vague plan, or is just somebody that's going to throw some cones out for you or some weights. The other difference is my phone is always on. And that's like the simplest way I put this, but that's like a whole meaning to it, which I could talk for hours. But it really means, like, if you're my client and you text me at 8 o'clock at night wondering about a dinner choice, or you're stressed about something, you have external stress from something that's not related to like what we're doing in the gym. So it's not physical pain, or like, I'm tired of working out. It's more like something happened outside of work. Like, we will talk to you. I'm not the type of trainer that will, all right, we trained for our session for an hour, you pay me and we're done. I'm the type of trainer that's like, you paid me for a session. My phone is on all the time and I'm here for you. My clients also know this. I adapt and adjust for them every day, every week, right? So if a client tells me, for example, if I have a student athlete and he's like, Coach, I got a big game tomorrow. I just really need to get in the gym with you for an hour. I really need to like tune things up, just make sure I'm in good shape. I'm going to the gym that night with him, even if it's 8 o'clock at night. Like, I'm going there. I'm not, man, we already did our session this week and I'm tired. No, I'm going to get up, whether I'm in bed or not, and I'm going to go train with them or work with them, because to me, that's coaching. And I do think when it comes to the sports performance, I think when you coach kids in high school football or high school sports, to all the high school coaches out there that do it for the right reasons, I feel like you build that genuine love for people, for wanting to see them succeed, wanting to see them go places. So it's hard to just be a trainer when you've coached so many kids, and you know what it looks like to go to a college campus and watch that kid play and like see how good he's doing, and it means more, right? So I think those are the big differences in coaching and training. I think there's just more detail in coaching,
and you provide the accountability where a trainer wouldn't.
Where and a trainer may provide it for an hour, but then it may be like, okay, you're on your way, and now I have my next client, and like, again, my phone is always on. And I'm not gonna bring up anything, but there's a local gym that I went to not too long ago, and I was walking by, and there was about 5 or 6 ladies. So I'm assuming it was some kind of ladies workout, some kind of ladies fitness class, and they were all 6 on a bike. And while they were working, the trainer was sitting on his phone for about 20 minutes, because I ended up doing a few laps just to see. And he was sitting on his phone for like 20 minutes. And it just that's the difference to me, is like the attention to detail, the planning. Again, trainers will take a student athlete and they'll put them out there and say, run these crazy cone drills that make no sense for a kid to do, making zero sense for the kid to do, when like you should have a plan for that kid. For example, I don't train football guys the same I train baseball. Why would I? They're two different sports. They move two different ways. I'm doing a disservice by throwing cones down and saying, you guys are all going to do the same speed and agility work, because that's not what the kids need. They need what's specific to them and what's specific to their sport.
So
And
you
I
come
do
up
think
with
that's a
plans that are
difference.
tailored to their needs and their
Yeah.
sports.
Yep.
So how would that work from a business aspect? When it comes to business, typically people think, oh, you pay for a service and that's all you get. So do you provide structured workouts? Do you provide structured meal plans or anything like that for them?
Yeah. So what I typically will offer is I'll offer in-person training with me or virtually, either or. So you can train. Believe it or not, I actually have a couple people that have reached out from like Virginia since I started doing
Sweet.
OTA training. Shout out to Overtime Athletes, who is that's who I'm an understudy basically right now of OTA out of Florida. And that's who we sports performance. That's where I got my plans, how we create our plans, and how we create the sport specific movements for athletes and all the little details that we do. I do owe a huge credit to them, because they have an incredible way of doing things. But again, that was 3 years now of studying OTA, of studying everything they do, how they do it, because they have 200,000 athletes over 91 countries, right?
Wow.
So it's like,
That's
it's
impressive.
crazy. And some of that's virtual, right? So we offer in person, we offer virtual training, because we have some people in Frankenmuth around the country that like to train. I also do meal plans and workout plans. The only thing with the workout plans is I always try to make sure everybody understands the medical disclaimer. And I also try to make sure everybody understands, like, if you don't do these exercises correctly, it's A, it increases the chance of injury, and B, it also it's not going to have you progress as much as you should, right? So what I always try to recommend, to be honest, is talk to me at least. So if you want a plan, a workout plan, so say you want a weight loss plan, I can get that together for you. Again, I'm not a fan of like pre-made plans and selling them, because, and I know a lot of people do that, and I know it's a quick buck, and I know some of them work, but again, everybody's different,
Everyone's
right?
different.
So I want to know what you need to get to your goal. So if you let me know that, I will create a plan for you that's inexpensive, because again, the template for creating plans is already there. It's just plugging in evaluations from each person at that point and gathering all the information you can and plugging it into that template and figuring out how to give that person the best path to success. So that's my recommendation if you were to want like a meal plan or a workout plan, is, or even a sports performance. Say you're a basketball guy and you want like a basketball off-season plan, football guy. It's my best recommendation would be to get with me and at least virtually meet up with me at least like maybe 30 minutes a week. So, or even during a workout, so that I can at least peek at forms your first few times, or maybe even maybe even your first workout. You know what I mean? Maybe even your first workout, right? You just get on Zoom or something and we film it. And then that will allow me to make sure that I can see your technique and make sure that if you're, for example, if you're doing a squat and your knees have a bad bow to them, I can correct what you need to correct to get your knees in the right place. That way you're not squatting and blowing your knees out over weeks and weeks. So that is my only thing. I don't necessarily just put them out there for like on a shelf for everybody to go buy, because again, I want it to be for you.
Yeah, you want it specialized for that individual.
Yep. But if you're somebody who's like, Coach, I just don't have a lot of time to work with you, like I only got 30 minutes a day and I got kids and it's crazy, I'll develop that plan for you. And just again, let's just go virtual one time to make sure your technique is right, because we always preach technique. That's like, if you're not doing things right, warming up right, it's injury and it's lack of progress. And we don't want that at the end of the day. We want every person mentally and physically to transform to what they want to be. If not, we failed, right? So, and to do that, I have to know mentally and physically where you're at in your life, so that we can give you the best route possible.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
So it sounds like there's a lot of knowledge that goes into it. Now, I know in most states you don't have to be certified for most coaching programs or anything. Is there any certifications that you personally have undergone or know of that other fellow coaches have gone?
Yeah,
through?
so there's a lot of good stuff out there. I'm certified in, I do believe in certifications, and I believe in, but I think you got to pair it. I think we have a lot of people who have a lot of education. They went to school for kinesiology. They have their certification in personal training. They did this, but then they don't have the like hands-on experience. So to me, it's like you have to pair that with the hands-on experience. But I think certifications are important because you do learn how the body moves, how it works, injuries, tissue. You learn the details of how the body. The only thing that I've been blessed enough personally that I love, and this is something that will be available to more coaches in the future. That's just a little cue for coaches out there. Stay tuned for sports coaches. This is huge. Even guys like I'm friends with on Facebook with a lot of guys who coach at high school level. These programs and this coaching program is going to be available to coaches, so you guys will even be able to utilize this. But me personally, I've been lucky enough to. So I did ISSA, which is it's great. They're thorough. The exams are hard. I felt like they made me think. They pushed me, but a lot of it's the science part of it. You learn about, again, tissues, tendons. You don't really learn about how to make an athlete move in those ways correctly. So you kind of miss part of like, well, okay, now I know like the knee does this, but like I don't know how to make the athlete train the knee to do that like properly. So it's like you kind of miss certain things. So the OTA thing has been phenomenal because Chris Barnard, shout out at OTA, he was phenomenal in this program at teaching not as much of that, but teaching the meat and potatoes of like how to train athletes to move in the right ways, what to look for in their form when it's off. Like he taught a lot of the details and experience of how to go do it. And again, that's a program that I was actually asked to do out of a select few. It's not even available yet. So, and that's a certification. It's funny, just this morning I logged on. I've been waiting for the test. The final test is actually still in development until today or yesterday because I haven't been on in a few days. But now that final test is up for, it's up. So when I finish that, I'll be overtime athlete certified. So with Chris, with Jordan, with all them guys down in Florida, we'll actually have an OTA coach here in Michigan in their directory and everything. So that's been awesome. So like if I could recommend to other coaches that program when it drops or even before that, just find programs or find experiences, whether it's weight rooms, gyms, college programs, go do stuff because the certifications are good. They do look good. They do teach you about the body. And they do kind of give you like that diploma-esque feel to profession. But, and again, some people won't hire you as clients, or a gym won't hire you without certifications. So it is important, but again, I just think it's super important to make sure somehow you go get a program that makes you prepare for the experience side of it as well.
That makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
So when it comes to starting coaching, athlete coaching business, the certifications are obviously something you do. Do you basically just work out of other people's gyms, their own personal gyms, to go to them? How does that work when it comes to upstarting it?
That's an interesting question. So for everybody is different. I'm going to be honest. Chris started in a 500, 600 square foot facility. So super small, right? Not much space. I know guys who have started in 5,000 square foot facilities because they had business loan opportunities or whatnot. I know people who have started at parks. Me personally, I started at the park. We started going down to the park at different hills and sand pits, and we traveled. We went to 1 week we'd go travel in the and train in the sand. 1 week we'd go to a hill. 1 week we'd stay on turf. So we found it, but we find it extremely challenging in the winter, right? Because you either have to work out in the cold, or you'd have to find ways to get indoors. So to be honest, for me, I'm working with the ALCC and have in the past. This is not my first actual go around with the ALCC. We worked together in the past. And when I was in Romulus, it kind of made it hard to do things with them. But now that I'm home, it's really easy. And I'm right down the road, and we're planning some really big things coming up with sports camps and all types of things. But that will be our indoor space for the winter time. I'm a big fan of training outdoors in the summer, unless it's just somebody that's totally against it and wants to be in a gym. I'll make exceptions for people to make them feel comfortable so that we can get the most out of their workouts. But I do tend to like to be outside in the summer. But in the winter, we go to the ALCC. Those are options for coaches who may be listening or listen to this, who are like, well, where else can we train, in our situations? So for those guys, there's different rental options. I know that at times Go Mad Fitness has offered different options to rent space for people to train and work out and hold classes. and different local gyms in everybody's areas. I know there's a couple gyms for out in the Frankenmuth and Bay City area where we have some history. There's some gyms out there who do that. Rec centers sometimes are open to like doing stuff. And then again, if you have no other choice, I mean, it's tough because you don't want to tell coaches unfortunate, like hard situation things, but sometimes you're going to start at a park. It just is what it is. Sometimes you're going to train at a park. Yep. And you're going to pray that there's, a couple, 2 or 3 days a week that end up being 40 or 35. So you can go out and they're not -10. And that's kind of how it starts sometimes, if that's worst case scenario. And for some coaches, again, you might be able to go get a business loan, and it doesn't. I would say my advice too is like, be humble and don't rush it. If you need that 500 square foot, that's only, $500-600 a month instead of 1,000 or 5,000 for your big facility. Like, just go get that little space until you build the clients to move your way up. Because you'll see a lot of coaches and trainers have done that, where they started here and then it got to this big facility and then it ended up being a state-of-the-art facility over the time, right? So you got to be resourceful. You got to look around. That would be my best advice, is be super resourceful. We've had to do that. We were at Munson Park Saturday. We've been at all types of parks in Romulus. We've just been everywhere to train. So just be resourceful and make sure that your people get the work they need, and at the end of the day, once that starts happening, because it'll happen faster than people think too, where you find opportunities to train or you hear about things. Or again, I've been blessed with the ALCC. I've grew up playing ball in there and hanging out in there. So now it's like, it's a blessing to have that opportunity. But if you really look around, you'll find something to do.
So what would you say is your target market then for when it comes to coaching? Just like strictly athletes in school, more college? What is your age target market?
This is a cool question for me, to be honest, because I got 2 ways to think about this, and one of them is that way that you put it, and the other way is, so I like to work with people that are truly ready. I've had clients that come in, they work out 2-3 times and they're done, they drop out. And then you kind of wonder, like, well, maybe they went to another trainer. But you kind of see, you learn a lot on Facebook, right? You kind of see like, oh, they didn't stay committed. I like to work with people, I'm gonna be honest, that are ready. I like to work with people that are at a point where they need results. They want results. They're tired of playing games. They're done with the accountability game. They're like, look, I'm ready to get it together. I want to get in shape. I want to get better. I want to do this. That's because for coaches, as from the business side, right, I coach a volleyball team. I coach a football team. I only have so much time.
Yeah.
So I need my time from a training and coaching standpoint. I need it to be valued, and I need you to be there. And that's not me being like selfish or anything like that. That's just the reality, because the more you get here and execute, the more I can actually put into the schedule and get more people help, and the more we can impact. When things get foggy, when people stop showing up, or you got to start moving schedules around because this person, then it kind of messes with the flow, right? When everybody's committed, you can boom workout, boom training session, boom this, and it's really smooth to do that. So I do prefer, I like to be the last call. I don't mind if I'm your first call. If you want to call somebody else, that's fine. But I want to be your last call when you're like, it's got to happen. Results right now. Got to happen. Same for athletes. When a guy's just, my vertical's got to get better. I had a bad basketball season. I have to be able to jump next year out of the gym. Come see me then. Let's get you up. So and then from the age standpoint, I'm open to that. I like coaching high school kids, right? Because high school kids, to me, it's a great chance to develop them as young human beings and mold them into society, mold them into being either CEOs, entrepreneurs, trade school guys that end up being awesome trade workers for years and years. Like, I find it very thrilling at the high school age. I just think it's and really the junior high and youth too, to be honest. I think it's really a fun age to teach. I am open to college. I have worked with a few college athletes. I do like that as well. College athletes, they're very to the point most of the time because of the training they go through at college. Their coaches are usually pretty intense in college and disciplinary and pretty football, especially. Everybody, my coaches who know this, you guys know how college coaches are. They're it's intense. So when them kids, college kids work with you, right, it's very like, oh, they're just, it's very serious, in tune. They know how to do this stuff by now. So that is the one fun thing, is there's more with college. There's more
dive into.
Yeah, there's more like diving into real specifics, or like just really coaching them hard. Whereas high school and youth, but this is also kind of the positive part of it too, is like you really teach them to be technicians and they're really learning. So they both have like their really fun sides. So I do like both. I also train adults who, again, but this is with me liking to coach student athletes, I'm very particular with the adults that I train. It's got to be somebody who has been trying to lose weight for a long time and just can't get it under control and is like ready right now, has to do it, has a wedding coming up. They're tired of it. Like,
I feel
it's
like I'm
over.
being called out right now.
No. Not at all. But I've had that scenario where somebody has called me and been like, I have a wedding in 3 months. I need you to get me together right now. And
I know Corey's been okay. He's like, I need to talk to Devin. He's like, I need to lose my gut for the wedding.
And I'm like, those are the people I like to work with, though, because we get to hit the ground running. Those are the people that are ready to go. So, and it's not to say like I won't work with people, because again, I'm a coach at the end of the day, and I do like to give people chances, and I do like to figure out how to help you, how to maybe, because I do think as a coach too, sometimes we have to trigger things. We have to find things in people as coaches and teachers and even parents. Like, we have to find things in people that trigger them to kind of respond in positive ways and be better and grow. And like, there's some people that they come to me first time trying to lose weight. They've never, I just want to lose weight. And those people I will still try to work with, because there's something I may be able to find, or maybe this is your first time and you just naturally are ready to go. So it's hard for me to say there's a specific exact target. My majority is student athletes, and majority is high school. That's kind of my thing. I take pride too. I'm a guy who likes to see kids succeed and go out to do things. I grew up in an area, and I love Erie, but everybody stays in Erie, right? And a lot of people stay in Monroe, and a lot of people stay in Ida, and even Romulus. A lot of people stay in Romulus. And like, one thing I kind of really love is, like, as a coach, we have gotten a lot of kids to go experience things. They leave, they go to college, and it's like, and we always tell them, like, always love where you came from, and you can come back and say hi and love us. And I don't even care if you settle down with a family one day, if this is the place you really love, but you can still go experience life. Right. So like I really like the high school side of it and youth, and because you can really,
build the blocks that they're going to take with them on
life. I'm working with an 8th grader right now, and he was at U of M yesterday, and he plays at Mason, but he's also one of my student athletes that I actually train through my business. Right. So and it's incredible to watch him. We're just putting the pieces together slowly. And it's like, that's the coolest joy, right? Is like, the next 4 years, I'm going to watch this guy like grow as a person and as a football player. And I'm going to watch him chase this objective down, because he really wants to play college football. So it's super fun to watch that age. But as far as target, it's student athletes for the most part.
What's the youngest you've coached?
So I had a youth group that was between 5 and 10. They were all between 5 and 10-year-olds. Yeah. And with the ALCC, good chance to spread word for a minute. We're going to do a youth camp, actually. Really? I'm hoping for July, but depending on when we get details ironed out, it may be August, but hoping July, we're going to actually do a youth camp for little kids. So for the young guys. So we work with young kids from time to time. I do like having like a youth group, because that's a chance to teach them the real foundations of movement, how to move right, how to stretch right. And that's kind of like a really good chance to, when they get to the older level, to where you iron a lot of that stuff out, so that when they get to high school, they're not like squatting all weird, because they've already been used to doing the movements when they were, we don't throw big weights in their hands at 5 years old or nothing like that. But
I was about to say, I could see Maverick throwing something across the ring.
But we keep it under safety and under control. But 5 to 8, we've had them out there moving around, learning how to stretch, learning how to run properly. Because nowadays that's kind of becoming more popular too, is getting them started younger. And I think some of us parents and coaches are doing that to kind of delegate technology where, it's good in its own ways. Kids also don't know how to use it yet. Right. So I think sports and keeping them active younger kind of gets them like from maybe not using the technology correctly, and keeps them active, right, and healthy. And so I think training, when you do get those opportunities to train kids, I think is super important to take those moments and train the young guys and girls. So
Yeah, that's great. I adore that, especially focusing on that. Do you work with a lot of different programs then, or is it just through them? Or have you ever thought about starting your own youth program?
So I work with a few different things. Obviously, I work with Erie Mason.
Mhm.
I work with Allen Park with the volleyball, and then I also work with the ALCC. But I also do stuff on my own. So I do like a sports performance camp every Saturday. We call it our Elite Performance Camp. That's ages 8 to 18. So we usually pick a location outside. Inside, we'll be moving it during the winter, but pick a location every week. That gives kids a chance to always come out and learn how to progressively move correctly. Because again, a lot of our training that separates us is everything we do is progression based, and that keeps things very safe, and it keeps kids doing things the right way. We don't move them forward in something until they're ready for that stage. And we break it up in different phases. Simple terms, that's how we do it. You can't really move past phase one until you're ready. And then phase two is a progression of phase one. So it keeps all them kids very safe, and it keeps them, kind of going in a good direction and keeps the flow good. And then as far as youth camps and stuff in the future, I'm going to see what goes on with the ALCC, just because there's so much
So
we're actually
much.
planning. We have
That's
like 7 or 8
awesome.
camps, to be
That is
honest,
so
planned.
awesome.
And then a sports nutrition
Mhm.
class every month. We want to do a sports
Oh,
nutrition
that'd be
class.
beneficial.
So it's like, if the time lines up right, I'd love to. There's a youth camp that I'm trying to get set up at Erie Mason that I'm
Mhm.
hoping to open to the community, not
That'd be
just
great.
Erie. I'm
Mhm.
hoping to be able to have got to talk to coaches about what we can do and rules and all those sort of things. But I want to see if we can open that up and try to have it open to any kids in the community that would like to come out. So there's definitely some different things that are going on. And then the individual training part of it, I don't really have like an age, as far as student athletes and that. I don't really have like an age limit. Like obviously there's a certain level of age where kids can do certain things. So if you bring them at 5, we're not really going to be able to do much with them other than teach them, basically how to do really, really, really simple basic movements. But individual training, we open to student athletes that are playing sports at any level. So that's always something that's available. And again, that's very personal. That's not a program that I even have it made up in a folder, or
Oh,
that's the
yeah.
kid comes in. We evaluate you from the deepest evaluation that I have seen in my life. I got it from OTA. I love it,
Nice.
but it's a very deep evaluation.
Mhm.
So we do that for each kid, and make sure they get what they need. So that's also available to the young guys too, all the way through college. So
Now, for that type of stuff, when it comes to price scale, how do you go about creating the price list, or does that vary per person too, or do
so
you have a set base that you go off of?
that will vary based on coach and situation, just
Mhm.
because certain coaches will have to charge, kind of like any industry, right? You have to, if you have a restaurant, you have to account for the lights being on, the work,
All the
the
overhead.
employees. You got to account for everything. So as a coach, when you start charging for things, you really have to look at what you have going on, and I think
Mhm.
you really have to look at where you're at too. If you're in year one, you probably shouldn't go out there and charge $60 a session. And if you're in year one in a park, you probably shouldn't go out there charging even $50, $40 a session. You should probably make it low, and until you build your way up to that, right? I've
Mhm.
always believed in that, because I also believe, again, I believe coaching is, it should be about your clients first. And I don't think you should try to look to make a gold mine. I think
Exactly.
I know a ton of coaches who make money doing sports performance, including the guys at OTA, and they don't charge people an enormous amount. I know a ton of coaches who do it without absolutely destroying clients' bank accounts. But I
Exactly.
think for coaches who are looking to get into this, or who are doing this and maybe struggling to make money or whatever the case is, I think you really got to look at your situation. If your overhead is big, obviously, if you're somebody like Legacy or Level Up or the Flat Rock, the one down in Flat Rock, I know there's a center down there. Those places have to charge a little more because they got more overhead, right? They have a turf to pay for, meaning they can do more too, right? They can host team tournaments. And so you got to really look at it. For a person that may have a 500 square foot gym, you probably don't need to charge the same as Legacy charges. You know what I mean? You probably don't need to go charge $100 a session. But again, if you're a guy at a park, you probably need to find that happy medium. And I think some of it is, what equipment do you bring to the table at that too? So for example, we actually use pretty minimal equipment, and we do a good job, but we do have jump ropes, we do have dumbbells, we do have a barbell, we do have my trunk, I call it a mobile gym. Like, you open it up, we do have cones, we got hurdles. There's stuff that you have to count into. And then it's gas, right? Like, where are you traveling to your clients? Like, is this a client that lives down the road from you, or is this a client that lives 2 hours away? And and that gets hard, right? Because clients, everybody wants to feel fair and be charged the same. But at a certain extent, as a coach, you got to understand, like,
not everyone's working with the same stuff.
Everybody's not working with the same stuff, the same number of days per week. So for example, like, I don't charge the same for somebody if they go month by month as if they want a 3-month pay plan. So I'll offer you a month by month or a 3-month. So if you pay for 3 months, you get a better rate than if you pay for a month. So there's a lot of different things. It's like any business, right? Where you find ways to, like, incentives to get people. Because for me, the 3-month thing is something I got from OTA again, but I love it because it keeps you committed. It makes you accountable, but it also, what it does, right, is it gives me enough time to actually make you start to see the development. It gives me enough time, because some people, and I love everybody, I don't mean this in a negative way, but some people will come work out with you for a week and they'll be like, I didn't drop my 20 pounds yet. I only dropped a pound. And you're like, well, it's not going to be 20 pounds. And what, like, did you fix your eating this week yet? Or how's our sleeping? Because all that stuff matters. And we talk about all of that. We talk about your sleep habits. Like, we explain external stress and how it adds weight. Like, we talk about every single thing that could involve your training or your development. So I think all that is super important.
Definitely is.
So for a coach, just to kind of finish up on that note, you got to really find, I think, what you're worth. And again, there's a ton of research out there to where you can go look and find what other coaches are charging. For example, like, I can't charge my student athletes what Chris charges his, because Chris has been doing this for 10, 15 years longer than me. And he has just that much more experience. Like, I'm learning his systems, right? So by nature, I should not be charging the same as Chris. And he has a facility, right? I'm using the ALCC, where we either use facilities for free or very cheap. So my rates are going to be much different than what his may be, right? So it does depend on the situation. Again, and just don't hurt your clients. Don't, because that's the one thing you really got to teeter hard. And I've seen student athletes that have came to me and been like, I couldn't pay $75, $80, $100 for a session every session. Like, so you got to be really careful, because you got to know your worth in business at any point. That Josh knows that. We all know that, right? You got to know your worth. But at the same time, if you overcharge for your worth or you overdo it, those people will just go find, because there's a lot of coaches and trainers out there. They'll just go. So you got to find a way to really, like, and what I always have to do too, I'm going to be honest with you guys and the coaches, and this is the last point to this, and super key though. You got to get personal with your people that you work with. Like, you have to be a friend to them, and you have to understand them and their situation, because not everybody's situation is the same. And I've had situations where I'll be honest, where I knew so-and-so was going to get paid Friday. I know them by heart. I know them as a person. I know they've given me the shirt off their back when I was young. I know they're going to pay, right? So I maybe do something a little different arrangement wise for them. And that may not be how everybody works. Some people, coaches I know, are boom, boom, boom. This is how we do it. I just feel as though, as a coach, I need to be personal with my people. and figure out what they can comfortably do. You know what I mean? And sometimes it may be like, say it's somebody that wanted 5 sessions and maybe they were like, that's, I'm really looking for something kind of inexpensive. And that was a little above. Maybe it's something we can do where it's like, well, does the 3 month plan where I knock so much off of your session, does that do anything? Or, does, there's certain things we can work with, like does maybe if we only do 3 sessions to start per week, we can still get you a lot of work in 3 sessions. Maybe does that work for you? So I think it's super important for coaches to be personal with their people and figure out kind of the situations, what's going on, what their goals are, how many days per week. Because again, I don't think you can charge the same, and you can't charge an adult the same you charge a student athlete. To me, that's just my opinion. If a person comes to me and says, I want to get strong, I want to build muscle, and they're 40 and they just want to do it to look better for beach season, I can't charge them the same as a 17 or 18-year-old kid in college that wants sports performance. I just personally, that's me as a coach, student athletes, as a grown person. I feel as though at that age, at that level of your life, you should be able to, if you're looking for a service like this, you should be able to pay more than what the kid can, and that's just, you should be growing in life to be able to do those things. I'm that kind of coach where I'm a very nice guy, but I also know everybody should be developing and have results. And if you don't, it's a problem. You have to change the way you think or the way you operate. Right. So that's kind of how I view that. For coaches that maybe didn't get a direct answer, I would say, again, evaluate your situation, where you train, how much it costs for you to train. How many athletes have you trained? Is this your first athlete? Because if it's your first athlete, you can't charge him like the 100th athlete.
No.
The 100th athlete, at that point, you've trained so many guys or girls for so long that your experience is way up. So you have to really look at all the aspects to figure it out. And then the situations.
Now, when it comes to finding your clients and stuff like that, you're easy enough to where you work with student athletes. So working as a coach at their schools and stuff, get that. Where else would you recommend people to find their clienteles and stuff like that?
Networking, this in business. You talk about it all the time. I mean, it's
the foundation of this.
Right. Networking is crazy important. If you're a coach looking for student athletes, for example, and I learned this the hard way, you don't do anything by posting on Facebook all the time. You can get some people by posting on Facebook and Instagram, and you can generate some buzz, but there has to be more behind the networking than just, I'm going to keep posting this every day and hope these kids see me. You have to contact coaches. I'm going to be honest. You have to contact college coaches, high school coaches. You got to reach out to them. And if you're a coach, especially, and you're looking to do this, I would say start with your close resources, because most of us coaches, we look around, we're like, well, I was on a staff with these 7 people, and I was a staff with these 3 people. Start looking at coaches maybe where they have went, and you got to really be resourceful in your networking. You got to reach out. I reach out to different colleges every week. Hey, if there's guys that are looking for training, I can promise you I'm affordable. I shoot them the OTA information and tell them like, hey, your guys are going to get training up here they're not going to get. And, because you got to be confident in what you're doing. I'm confident in my preparation. So I think reaching out to coaches is important, reaching out to people, networking. And then there's a lot of people on social media that will post like, hey, I'm trying to lose 20 pounds by summer. And I think finding those people and reaching out to them can be very helpful. When you see somebody like that, and a lot of us, when we first start doing this, we're like nervous to do things like that. But you really got to reach into people, and you have to be personal, and you got to talk to them, and you have to get to know them and ask them, what's your workout schedule like? Do you currently work out? Like, I'd love to work with you. I'd love to talk to you sometime. I'd love to have you in for a session. Free sessions. All my sessions are free. The first one, everybody gets free evaluation, free first session. So technically your first 2 sessions are free with me. You get an evaluation, and then you get a free workout. And then from then on is when we move forward. But so you get an idea of I don't charge you to come in and get evaluated, and I don't charge you for your first idea of what a real workout is like. So, and I think that, that's kind of cool. I do like doing that, but reaching out to those people that you may see on Facebook, instead of being nervous about it, reach out to those people, be confident in your training, your education, your prep. And then I think there is a part to the Facebook side of it. I think you and Instagram and social media, I should say. Twitter is a big space for coaches too. So any coaches who listen to this, if you don't have a Twitter, you have to, I promise, because I know Facebook is more typical for different things and Instagram's for different things, but Twitter is a coaching space. You have to be on Twitters and student athletes. So getting on Twitter and getting on those things, and I think following people and posting things, and like, for a long time I didn't do this, but now I'll just follow student athletes in our area. I'll follow kids at Concordia, at Eastern, and I'll just keep up with how they're doing and talk to them. And I think we live in a world where student athletes, especially if that's what you're looking for, and even personal training, because like again, we talked about COVID, it made everybody really want to get more healthy, which I love.
Exactly.
But a lot of people are searching for it, and you have to meet them in the middle. A lot of times, especially when you first start, you're scared to do that. You can't be like nervous to do it. You got to reach to those people and say, hey, I'm coach, and I would love to talk to you sometime about your goals, about evaluating, about getting you something that works for you. And I think that's super important. And then just going to different events and different things, whether it's football games, you got to attend college and high school football games and youth events. You got to go to different workouts. You have to go to camps. I seen a ton of coaches and trainers at U of M yesterday. You have to be at these things
where your clients are going to be,
to meet clients potentially, and not just to meet them, but really to be there, like you said, to be there for them, to make sure that they know, again, training versus coaching, that's a difference. Trainers, they're not showing up at U of M on Saturday with a kid or Sunday with a kid. We're showing up on Sunday to support the kids we train. And that's not just because he's an Erie Mason athlete either. That's any of the kids. The Allen Park volleyball team, I just got the schedule. When they start in August, I will be at those games as long as they're not on a Friday night, right, where my football game interferes. But I will be at all those games to watch them, because that's you care as a coach, or you should care, and that's important to me. So looking in those places, and then again, networking is just big, but personal networking, I think, is it's really, really important. You have to get out and meet people. That's big for high school coaches too. If there's any high school head coaches listen to this, or coordinators or position guys or assistants that are like, I know a lot of my friends are assistants that are young, trying to work your way up like we are, like I am. There's you have to do those things. You got to be super, super personal and get to build relationships and go to camps and places. And as far as personal training, I mean, a gym is a good spot if you're just wanting to be a personal trainer. If you're like, yeah, I don't work with student athletes, because I know there's probably a handful of people that just want to personal train and they're not really like sports coaches.
Yeah.
And that makes sense too, right? I know a lot of people like that. And it's like, for those people, a gym is a great place to start. Social media, again, is a great place to start. You have to look in those places. You can attend different cardio classes and things, because a lot of times you see people that do like cardio classes and they're doing them like once a week because they're like trying to start getting into working out, and it's like kind of fun, and you can meet people that way. And it's just like you have to be really resourceful, really, really resourceful, and you got to stay on the move. That would be my best advice. So I do it in a variety of ways.
So when you touched on a lot of the social media, when it comes to social media, how do you transition your coaching abilities onto those platforms? Like, what type of things you would post or anything like that?
I just started getting a lot better at social media when it comes to this. And part of this is I'm around some people. Shout out to Brain Jerk and Flashback and everybody. I'm around some great people that have done a phenomenal job at creating branding. That's the best way to put it. At not just creating a business, but an actual brand, something that almost feels. And when I say brand, like I always say, I want Kennedy Health and Wellness to feel like it's almost alive. It's like it's almost a being.
It's always changing.
Yeah, and I like it to feel like that. And so I think I think with branding, is super important. I think but where I fell into a trap at first, I was trying to get clients and I was doing a lot of posters and a lot of like, come train with me and do this. I find, especially in this business, they want to know what you're doing behind closed doors. They want to know what you're doing and they want to know why you're doing it. And so what you start to see is for coaches, the ones who are successful at building a brand, for example, overtime athletes, if you go look them up right now, there's thousands of viewers and thousands of views on every post and they get shared. And it's because Chris does a phenomenal job at mixing in a little bit of like, hey, here's our systems and come train with us. But a lot of it's like, this is what we do, why we train. So a lot of it really highlights their strengths and their system and their programming and their athletes production and results. And a lot of it is like he'll post something from a baseball game where his professional athlete for the Blue Jays is hitting a home run, and it's like, so it's really showing people what you're doing and then the results of what you're doing, as opposed to just, hey, come train with me, hey, boot camp today, hey, come to the gym. And you do have to have a fair share of that, because anytime you start anything new, first off, anytime you start a new camp, new training program, like for example, if you're at a gym and you're doing a boot camp, summer boot camp, you have to have a poster to put out, right? So everybody knows the boot camp's going on.
Exactly.
So like you do have to have a fair share of like, hey, this is going on. And I still do that. But you also, if what I've gotten into lately a lot is the reels and the videos, and because you got to show people, especially coaches and in business, you have to show people what you're doing. It can't just be, yeah, come to flashback, see our sign.
Yeah.
It has to be come to flashback, see all this cool stuff, see the vendors, see the great conversation. It has to be like it has to be very in depth.
Authentic. You have to stay authentic to the brand that you're trying to create.
And social media is a quick way to become unauthentic, and people can catch on to it very fast. And I learned that, like I really did. I learned that with both sides of our business, our body care and all that side and my side. I learned that like I was trying so hard at first, and I love being accountable on camera. I was trying so hard at first to get clients because I just wanted people to work with me, that I was just like, poster, come work with me. And I was like annoying myself to where I was like, buddy, you gotta tone down on all this stuff. You need it. So I started doing the culture points, the coaching points, the reels of the kids. And then also you have to have a fair mix. This is super important to me. And it's not selfish. It's important. You have to have a fair mix of your athletes and you. And as far as like promoting your coaching, it can't be you every picture and video, but it also can't be your kids every picture and video. They need to see snippets and videos and reels of you in real time, coaching kids up, cueing them the right way, teaching technique, demonstrating. As a coach, you got to get it on video that you can demonstrate. And they also need to know that, like, at the end of the day that, how do I put this? I'm trying to think. So,
You pondering.
Yeah, I'm pondering how to put this the best way. They need to know that you can demonstrate, but they also need to know that your kids are getting results and producing the right way.
Exactly.
And your kids also, this is the best way to put this. You have to promote your kids as a high school coach, college coach, performance coach, business coach, your clients.
Everything.
You have to promote your clients. So not only is it important to demonstrate what you do as a coach, but you also have to demonstrate what they're doing and the results they're getting.
Exactly, because it ties everything in with a nice little bow.
And it gets them recognition, because there's nothing worse. What you don't want as a coach is an athlete feeling like you're just coaching for your own brand and recognition and you're not coaching for them. So I think social media, you also have to find that fine line of like, I don't want this to be about me, but it has to split about the brand and also the kids. You have to find like a healthy. So I think that's super important, demonstrating like how to in coaching. Because, and this is a gem that I'm gonna drop. Too many of us are just doing stuff and we're not explaining to the kids why. We're doing this cone drill. Kids looking at us. Yeah, coach, that was cool. Do you even know why you did that drill? Do you have any idea? Because honestly, a lot of the drills I see on video, I'm like, we don't move like that in football. So why would I do that drill? you don't move like that in baseball. So why do you do that drill?
So you kind of gotta take
So it's
a
got to
young
be a
kid
how
idea
to. It has
of
to be a,
thinking.
yeah. And it's got to be like a how you have to do almost technician
Mhm.
mechanic type. You have to really get on video. And I think you really have to show the demonstration of like, we're teaching kids why. We're not just teaching them how. We're saying do this drill. This is how you do the drill, and then this is why you do the drill. This is what it's going to mean in a game. My kids know that before every drill we do, I explain to them at least two game scenarios, at least two scenarios at their position specifically. So not just any scenario. If it's a quarterback training with me, two specific quarterback scenarios that he's going to be in a game, and I make sure they always know the why. So I think for coaches, if you really want to be great at coaching, on and off the just off the field, on the field, all of it, you have to always tell your kids why they're doing something, because if they don't get why, they will quit or they'll go through the motions. I've coached teams and kids that go through the motions. And I've learned, and that's my pass down river coaching. And I've learned from those teams that it wasn't that they didn't care like I thought. I thought they didn't care. It wasn't that they didn't care. They didn't know why they were doing it. So by nature, they're not going to go as hard with the effort as they could, because if you don't understand why you're doing something, you naturally, as humans, we're not perfect. We're just going to be like, I don't get why I'm doing it. So why am I doing it?
Exactly. It's like
So
coasting
teach
through
them.
school.
Yep.
Like,
And then the last thing I think is important for coaches is, and again, Flashback and Brain Jerk does a great job of this too, is we have to have a fair share of motivation, inspiration. I'm not a big motivation guy. I think motivation is I'm gonna be honest. I think motivation is when you're not ready to commit, and I think inspiration is when you're committed. I think motivation is when you wake up and you read something on Twitter and it got you real hyped up, and you said, "I'm gonna do this today," and then by the end of the night, you said, "Nah, I don't really want to do that no more." I think motivation is when you listen to a song and it gets you real pumped up, and then that was fun for the 10 minutes that I was hyped up. I think inspiration is when you've decided to commit to something and or committed to believing something, and it's when it doesn't leave, right? And I think you can be an inspired person but still have motivational parts of you that you have to work on, right? They're not like something that's just like you're only motivational or you're only inspired. There are things that, like, I believe I'm an inspired human being, but I'm gonna be honest, there's some parts of me, like for example, home life, just to be funny for a minute, like dishes.
oh
Some
my
days I
goodness,
wake up like,
yes.
I'm gonna do these dishes today, motivated as can be.
Then
But
you get
then
home.
3 days goes and I'm like, I'm not inspired to do these. So there's a huge difference, right? But as a person, I'm inspired because my commitment to coaching, and that's where the inspiration along with so many areas. So that's big to me. I think as coaches, we all, as business coaches, sports coaches, mental health coaches, because that's something that's become big today, is and I think that's great, is mental health coaches that just work on how you think, how your mind works, and
Oh yeah, the
and I
effects
think
of
that's
like changing it
phenomenal.
is crazy.
Yeah, and I love that, because we always, as an athlete, we're talking about coaching and student athletes. We always focused on physical injuries. Always. We always were like, "Oh, does your knee hurt? Well, take go get some ice. Oh, you got a hip injury? Okay, well, go get some ice." But we never once were
What's
like, "Are you
causing it?
mentally hurt?" We never once were like, "How are you up here? Like, is everything okay? How's your stress levels?" Like we used to go to the hospital for a broken leg, but like, and it's a old saying I heard on a show that I watch, a podcast, but it was like, we go for a broken leg or a broken arm or broken this, but we don't go for broken minds until I've personally feel like recently, when mental health has started to become more important. So I think spreading and I'll finish with that. That's a great point to finish on. Coaches, along with teaching your how to's and your whys and showing your results and showing your coaching, the inspiration, and also I think spreading the mental health. I think our kids, our young generation is in a really difficult spot, and I'm not political by any means. I live my life according to my morals, values, and I'm not gonna lie, I live it according to like what I'm doing. I don't pay attention to politics. I'm gonna be honest, people, this might rub the wrong way. I don't even care what the gas prices are. I gotta drive to where I have to go every day.
No matter the
No
price tag.
matter the price of gas, I gotta go there. So I tend to find happiness in not diving into that stuff as much. So I think it's super important though to really tackle that side for our student athletes, because there are kids that are non-student athletes and student athletes, all kids. We're in a really tough position in society where this generation, it really needs to be led the right way, right? And it's up to us as parents, coaches, teachers to really lead them the right way and give them the right information and give them the right positivity and be mindful of things and give them the right insight. So I think all those things as a coach, that to me is what makes you a very, very well-rounded coach, whether it's sports performance or coaching, is if you can really promote those things, promote your kids, promote your how-tos,
Exactly.
inspiration, all that stuff.
And like
So
you came across, it's so hard not to fall into the social media trap on that aspect, because
yeah,
so many times there's ways you can buy followers, there's ways you can like
yep,
bump things up. And
yep,
it's just about staying authentic to your brand and not caving
yep.
in to all the likes and the
And
views.
I don't cave into those a whole lot. I don't worry, because I think when you really love coaching,
It
it's
shows.
a different business too, I'll be honest,
Hmm.
because it's one of those businesses where I think a lot of businesses, you mix kind of your personal and passion with your
Hmm.
business, but I also think there's, excuse me, some businesses out there that, like, it's really a money churner. Like,
Yeah,
that's what it's here for. It's so the boss can go home and enjoy his big house and his cars, and like it's just to
exactly.
churn money. That's what the business is here for, right? Or maybe it's to supply something and churn, like, but I think this is a business where you have to be really personal, and you have to, and I just don't think you can succeed without it, not long term. Again, for example, I'm at U of M yesterday. Chris is at a Blue Jays game last week, the Toronto Blue Jays, with his clients. We're with our people, and it's I think that's important. So I think not falling into that trap is key. And I mean, I know some people that have used social media to try to get into different areas or do things, and I don't. I'll be honest, I don't. I've heard mixed reviews on social media boosting and
Hmm.
things of that nature. I just don't think I've needed it. I think
No.
when you, because here's what happens for coaches, and this is a great way to put this. What happens with coaches when you start doing what we did earlier, and when you talk about networking, when you go to that camp and you shake hands with all those coaches, all of a sudden what happens is business cards start getting handed out, or everybody starts
Hmm.
following you on Twitter. You start building super big followings really fast. But again, that's why it's important to go out, because if you just sit back, or you just go do your sessions and go home, and you don't go do camps, or you're never going to actually like get those people to network with and talk to them and build a relationship. So to me, that being super active actually really helps you build that social media following. I mean, a
Yeah.
year or two ago, I had 500 or 600 friends on Facebook. And I know this is like a weird gauge, but it's like nowadays we do kind of gauge some things on social media,
Exactly, yeah.
right? Like
It's hard not
it's
to.
hard not to. So, and like now I have like 12 or 1300 friends, and I'm like looking through the list not too long. And I'm like, coach, athlete,
And you
coach,
start,
athlete,
yeah,
athlete,
you start
athlete, athlete.
noticing
And I'm
like,
like,
oh, hey.
I met him in Glacier, met him in down here. And I'm like, everybody you come across, you start to add, because it really is coaching for the most part. Like anywhere, you have some bad seeds, but
Mhm.
coaching for the most part, there's an unwritten rule where we genuinely have the benefit of the kids in our heart, where we're
Mhm.
really trying to get kids where they need to go. And again, there's some bad seeds and whatnot, like everywhere. Like there's bad
Yeah,
anything. There's
exactly.
bad people in the store, bad policemen,
Mhm.
bad actors. Like there's just bad seeds anywhere, right? So it's one of those things, but there's also a lot of good people. And I just think that's something that you got to show genuine, and you got to, yeah.
And I think that is something that kind of translates hard now from social media to the real life, because that's where you get all the networking. And so many people are
Yep.
nervous and have that imposter syndrome about going to these events or anything like
Yep.
that. So, did you
And
have to overcome imposter syndrome or
I
anything?
was hoping, I was honestly hoping you were about to ask that.
You know,
Cause
it's my favorite
I was like, I
topic.
want to touch on this. Cause yeah, I was bad. I was bad. I didn't want to go to camps. I was bad. And then, so like, the kid yesterday I coach, loved the kid to death. Great kid. He was extremely nervous. He had a camp on Friday at Toledo. Then he had a workout with me Saturday, and then he had a camp on Sunday.
He had all weekend with you.
And he was extremely nervous about
Mm.
these camps. He's an eighth grader. He's never done a
Aw.
football camp before, and these are at two big universities. There's
Mhm.
300 kids at this U of M camp.
Goodness.
So He's extremely nervous. And it's like, I realized in that moment yesterday, as simple as it is, I realized like I'm teaching this kid the same thing that I had to teach myself. I'm telling this kid, you don't get used to this and it doesn't get comfortable without repetition. And we had an old saying at Romulus, Coach Surs, Coach Davis, and I, and all of us, that repetition is king. The more you do something, the more it becomes second nature. I know you've heard the old saying, it's 10,000 hours it takes to master something. And for it to become second nature, most people don't even realize like second nature means you don't even think. It
like
just
driving.
happens. Yeah, it just literally happens. And like, that's so hard to do, right? And I think that's so for me teaching him, it was like, hey man, you're not, if you want to play college football, like that's your objective, right? I asked him before, I said, is that what you really want out of this thing? Yeah, like I'm going to college to play. Then you have to do these things. You have to put yourself in a position to be seen. You have to put yourself in a position to elevate against players that are at a higher level than you potentially. Because we believe in, I grew up down at the park playing with the kids that was older than me. We believe heavily in we call it throwing them into the fire. And it sounds negative, but I promise you it's the most positive thing in the world. You put kids in the fire in experiences where they have to go compete and learn. You put them into experiences where they have to go see what they're made of and they have to think through things and get better. And that's what he did yesterday. And he handled it great. Super proud of him. He competed. He won some. He lost some. He got better. So it was like overall a successful day. But the point teaching him before was like, man, the more you do the camps, the more these camps come, the more reps you take as a football player, this stuff is going to feel easy. So for me, for going to the camps, going to Glacier Clinic, even when like all you're doing is sitting down and watching a coach speak, even that was nervous for me at first because you're in a room with 30, 40 coaches all over some of these guys come from all over the country to go to this. So some of these clinics, you're with coaches that have won national championships and state championships. And it can be like, wow, these are some very successful people. But you have to realize, I think, as a coach, what your objective and goals are, who you are trying to be at the end of the day. And then I think you have to realize that you're doing it for the kids. That's most important to me because I have this old thing, and Kobe used to talk about it. I love Kobe Bryant. Everybody knows that. Yep. Shout out Kobe. Love Kobe. Late great. But he had this thing where like you never get comfortable with something until you get the repetition, right? And then what happens is when you go and you have issues, like he airballed 5 shots in his first game on live television, you go back to the lab and you figure it out, right? And that's kind of the way you do it. And he always used to say, like, once you get over your ego, once you get over your ego, it gets easy. And I didn't know what that really meant for about a year. And then I really thought about it every day. Like, why am I still afraid to go to camps? And I'm like, you're in your ego. You're afraid that there's a coach here that's better than you or that will beat you on a Friday night. And you're afraid to be in the same space as him for some reason because maybe it's lack of confidence. So for me, it was like getting the repetition of coaching. So it was like training more athletes, coaching multiple seasons. I'm going into year 7 now of high school football, year 6 of high school football, year 8 of coaching. So it comes with repetition. So if I'm a coach, as a coach, sorry, if I'm a coach in your guys' shoes trying to get like more comfortable with those things, go do them all the time, rep, so that you become comfortable to it. And then the other thing Kobe used to say, as far as ego, and the other thing he used to say was like, you'll never do something every day if you just do it for yourself. You'll quit eventually. And he used to, and I think that's a really honest thing that we don't like to accept is like, if you do something if you only run your business for yourself, you'll quit your business eventually.
Oh, yeah.
If it's not for your family, if it's not for the customers, if it's not for everything in totality, you'll quit eventually. That was Kobe's big thing. So his thing for basketball was always, there's so many people that go to work Monday through Friday and pay big money to like come see me play. So I have to show up and play hard. And my kids, they need this. So I have to show. So as a coach, the other key point to you guys in those moments, remember that the kids you're doing it for, because at the end of the day, that's bigger than you. That's bigger than your ego, than what you are doing there. It's bigger than you even building your brand. because at the end of the day, as a coach, even as a business, you should be worried about getting the kids out first. Because I'm gonna be honest, if you get the kids out recruited, or you get them developed athletically to where they need to go, or you transform them mentally and athletically, if you do those things, the business side of thing will fall in
Yeah,
place for
it
you.
comes
You
in.
don't have to worry about it. You'll get clients because they'll see the results. So to me, it's like keeping that singular focus on like kids. And I'm not saying make bad business decisions. Like, you can't charge $10 a session. You
No.
can't make, but I think keeping a singular focus on kids first and knowing that the business will domino from there, I think that's super important. And then again, just always remember that like you're there. And if you're a coach trying to move up the ladder, like a lot of us coaches have families, and we struggle, right? Because I'm gonna be honest, especially high school coaches and college coaches, we don't get paid that much. So it's like a real struggle now as a performance coach. That's kind of why I do this, right? Because I want to make money doing what I love all the time. And I also want to help more kids first and foremost. So getting into sports performance coaching gave me the opportunity to help more kids, impact more kids, not just the kids at the high school I'm coaching at either, all around. But it also gave me a chance to maybe have a living for my family that I can do while coaching. So it's like the perfect blend, right? So but I think just remembering that first and foremost, the kids are first. And that's really what got me. And honestly, it's what gets me to still go to camp sometimes. Some of these camps are 2-3 hours away. They're hot summer sun. It's like, and I wake up and like, I run the business with Meg and the kids. And like, there's some days when I'm like, there's days when you really don't necessarily want to do things. That's part of life. And you don't necessarily want to do it even when you love things. And I think those days are super important to remember the kids while you're doing it. Make sure you show up to those things every time, because it is super important. And I think understanding that too, right? I heard this old thing from Coach Sirs. He used to say, like, when you love something, you have multiple feelings when you love somebody or something. Like you love certain things about people, and then there's those certain things that you have to learn how to adapt and deal with. You love, like, for coaching, I love coaching kids. I didn't love coaching during COVID. I didn't love our season getting canceled constantly. I don't love necessarily conversations with parents every Friday night. Those can be rough sometimes. Like, there's certain things about coaching I don't necessarily love, but I love it as a whole. So you learn to deal with those things because you understand, like, nothing in life comes without struggle, without obstacle. And once you understand that, you know to always keep the kids at the forefront and just know, like, going to these things it's super important for them. I need to be able to be there for them, for their support, because it's different. The kids light up when their parents or coaches show up. They light up. So it's like, and they play harder, and they need that stuff. So always for coaches, just remember that, man. It's about the kids. Show up to those things, even if you had a long week or you're really nervous, whatever it is, just go push through it. Like anything, I think sometimes you just got to say go, flip the switch, I think it's important sometimes to take feelings and ego out of things, like drop the ego and let's go is the old saying, and take your feelings out, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting way to take it. As an entrepreneur, is there any misconceptions that you feel like is around coaching and how it's an easy way to quit your 9 to 5 or anything like that?
I think we live in a society where a lot of people look for quick things, right? And I think that you learn, if you are somebody who's tried to do that quickly, or I think we talked about this earlier, you got to invest if you want this to last. I think, yeah, you might be somebody who can put together a quick camp and make $20 off each kid, but are the kids going to come back the next camp? Is it going to be something that you can put together to have 1 year? You're looking at like a 35th annual. Like, that's the type of stuff we're looking at. Like, is the kid going to be a good father, dad, mother? We're looking at, like, are they gonna, what are we gonna do as a program down the road ourselves? Like, how are we gonna develop a gym and a facility? Like, we look at all these things as like a long-term plan. And so I think from a coaching perspective, it's not, there is misconception. That's the crazy thing, right? Is like, you think like, oh, well, because the hard part that gives it the misconception too is certain states either don't have certification requirements, or you can get them in like 6 months. So it's like people see it as like an easy, like, oh, I used to work out in high school, so shoot, I'll just go do my 6 months. And then again, like you don't ever really get the experience or learn how to. And then you do a disservice to a lot of people, or you get them hurt, or you actually don't ever get clientele because you don't know how. Because again, you thought, oh, well, I quit my 9 to 5. I was a big, strong football guy in high school, or,
Yeah.
I played sports in high school. So I'll just go get a job and do this. And I think unless you're willing to, like, again, network, and you're willing to invest in the time with the people, and you're willing to invest in equipment, like that's one misconception I think a lot of people miss. And it's kind of, it's not funny. It's really not, but it's like comical that it keeps happening. Cause it's like, how do people keep missing that? Like you have a lot of, like, when you become a trainer or a coach, you have to have equipment. Like you have a lot of stuff you got to buy. It's simple stuff like cones and tennis balls and footballs and volleyballs. And then you need more expensive stuff. Like you need box jumps, you need barbells, you need squat racks. Like, so I think like the common misconception is that it's fast. And I think if you want to be good at it and you're not trying to like pay for your car insurance because it's about to get shut off, like if you're trying to really do it, I think you have to understand that you're going to invest like anything for a while. Like even in business, I think you have to understand as a business owner that it's going to take some time to develop your business unless you're blessed with $1 million off the bat and
Right.
can just, and your dad owned the company and was rich. Like, unless you're in that situation, like you have to understand that it's going to be a dogfight for a while to develop. And I think it's super important to like know that it's going to feel like you're not going anywhere for a while. It's going to feel like that as you're planting the seeds,
You're like bamboo.
and then it starts rolling all of a sudden. It's like really fast. And it like, again, I've been studying and doing this for 3 years, and it just started rolling for me 8 months ago to a year ago. It just started. I just started getting athletes to call me regularly and want to work out. And I just like, it took me, and granted, I wasn't taking a lot of people because I was trying to get prepared the correct way. I felt like doing this the right way. And that's why I like talking about this question, is because I think it's important to do it the right way. We owe the kids and the people a service, and not just like a making money. Like we owe them a real life, like this, their health, right? This, their food that they eat. This is their bodies. And like, I come from a family that's had a lot of health issues. So to me as a coach, it's even more important for people that are trying to work with me to like make sure that they are doing things and eating the correct ways, because it's just from experience. We all go off. My experience is my expertise, right? That's the old saying. We all go off of what we know in life, what we've read, what we've seen, what we've done. And so that's for me, that's just going off my expertise. You know what I mean?
So, with your expertise, is there any particular way to avoid, say, the fast, quick results that people are looking for? Because a lot of times people will look up coaches and want the thing that will provide the fastest when it isn't necessarily the best for them.
So, and you want to know like what should coaches do?
Or no, what
For clients or
yeah.
people. See, the problem is we live in a society that's got a lot of information. And there's a lot of fads out there these days, and like diets and workouts, and don't eat any carbs. And so the problem with a lot of this stuff is it's not sustainable long term. Or maybe that's not the issue, but maybe the issue is once you stop doing it and you go back to your normal eating patterns, you gain sometimes even more weight than what you originally had gained. So there's a lot of issues out in these days with, like, again, this is an industry and I love this industry, and I just got to keep it real, right? There's some bull crap. Like there's a lot of BS. There's a lot of quick money making people that are just like, buy my training plan. My diet's the greatest. And that's why like the diet guides that I offer online are they're a very informational guide, but there's nothing medically specific, because if you're somebody who's honestly looking for that, you need to go see a dietitian, and then you need to talk to a nutritionist, or you need to go see your doctor. First off, that's what you should do. And then, so I think, I think people really got to watch just the details and the resources that they're looking into, because if something, honestly, if something is likely cutting something out forever completely, it's likely not sustainable. And to be honest, what I would say is like research it. Like if it says it cuts carbs out and it cuts, like, research what kind of carbs, because there's complex carbs and there's simple carbs. So like what kind of carbs does it completely cut out? And then go from there and research, if it cuts this carb out, is that sustainable long term? And I think doing your homework before you do this, like you guys as people who are looking for people to train with, student athletes who are looking to be the best athlete they can or best student athlete they can, those people, you like, don't take this as a game. Like you only have your body, you only got one. It's a temple. It's all you have. So like, don't put it in the hands of somebody who might blow your knee out or like put you in bad positions because they created a quick diet plan or a quick workout plan and they're making $20 a pop off of it and they're, putting it out there. So I think it's, again, research, see what they've studied, see what certifications they have, see what experience they have. Ask clients of theirs. Hey, I heard you train with Coach Kennedy. What do you guys do over there? What's he about? And I think that's super important, is just to be very mindful of everything, because and understand if it's sustainable or not. That's my number one note right there. Understand, like, can I do this forever? And you might have to look into some research to figure that out. But that tends to be what's happening, is sustainability. And I think we're getting caught up, right? And this is the other note I'm gonna leave people with on that question is, we're getting caught up in like, I need fancy. I need like this crazy diet that everybody is doing that just came out a week ago so that I can have it's almost like having the latest phone. I got to have the latest trend so that I can put it on Facebook. And my advice would be, stop falling for it. Just do what's real for you. Because at the end of the day, what's more cool to put on Facebook is the fact that you got the summer bod you was reaching for, or as an athlete, you got your vertical up and you had a great basketball season, or as a football player, you're just this much faster now in the 40. So like, that stuff's cool. It's not cool to put like, oh, cool, I'm doing this diet with all these people that are just now starting it. Like, so and my advice would be ditch that stuff and do what works for you personally. Do what is like specifically tailored to you. Find a coach or a trainer that is like, hey, I want to figure out what and you should know that basically by the way they evaluate and work with you. If they're not checking your body fat, if they're not checking your height, your weight, if they're not doing the little detailed things to make sure they see where you're progressing, and you can tell they're not really working towards that. So I think just being mindful of everything, be mindful of everything and be aware of the information you're taking in and where you get the information from. Like anything in this world nowadays, you got to watch whatever website you read and what people are publishing things, and got to be mindful and talk to people. Like I said, if most of us know somebody, every student athlete in the world knows another student athlete because they play on teams. Exactly. And ask around, like find out if somebody's training, and even people looking for personal trainers. If you see Sherry on Facebook talking about, I had a great session today, ask about what Sherry's doing.
Network that you're already built
exactly into. Yep. Use that network and ask Sherry what's so great about it, because it may lead you down the path to where you need to go. Because I'm not for every person. I understand that. So and the research, like know who the people you're working with, both from their kind of from their credential standpoint, but also know the person you're working with. And that's where networking and talking to people can really help you too, because they can tell you, oh, so-and-so, is really awesome. He's really personal, or she's really personal, and they really break stuff down. Or, yeah, I really liked it there, but it was kind of vague. And you can really get a sense for like, what the person's doing. Or, yeah, they were off on their phone. The trainer like gave me a workout and left. I mean, I've heard it all.
Oh my God.
Where it's like, oh yeah, they handed me a sheet and walked away. And it's like, okay, so I think really reaching out to know, like, look into credentials, know who they are, and then also know who they are as a person if you can. And sometimes that might be just, be aware if somebody's charging you $100 for your first session. Like, so you shouldn't ever, to me, you shouldn't, and most places give first free sessions.
Yeah.
Which is cool. That's not something that's like universal to me or anything like that. A lot of places do that. Utilize free sessions. Go see if you even can like work with the person, connect with the person, like make sure the gym equipment in the gym is not like a rust bucket that you're like going to get unmotivated and not want to go every day, or going to get uninspired. Like make sure it's things, that you're very in tune with, so I think that's all super important.
basically don't put the blinders on when all the
Yep.
fancy social stuff comes out or any of the
Yeah.
fancy
Yep.
lingo, because a lot of times
Ignore it.
coaches will dive in with fancy lingo like, oh, we're going to lose this much weight by doing this type of diet or
Yep.
this type of workout. So you're going to want to dive into the red flags and pay
Yep.
attention to what people are saying. And if they aren't, that might be a key for you right there.
Yep, exactly. And schedule is another thing, just to tap on it quickly, is you got to find somebody that's able to accommodate your schedule, because we're all busy. Student athletes have homework. We're all busy. So finding a coach that will work with your time and make sure that he gets you the proper, or she gives you the proper work, is also something that I think is super important, because what you don't want, and I just actually witnessed, one of my kids at Mason just went through this. He had signed up with a trainer before I actually had got there and everything, and he was working with somebody, and this person had left, and now he's just kind of sitting here with sessions and like, and it's like, and it's like, so make sure that, like, just make sure those things. Make sure the schedule part of things that, like, so and so, if you need to work out on a Monday, for example, and you want to go to gym A, but they don't have trainers available on Monday, like, you may just have to look for a different trainer or coach, because you again, make sure it accommodates your schedule, to make sure that you're not like, it's hard to move kids around and stuff. So I think from a client perspective, I always tell them, what works for you, and then I'll let you know if I'm booked. That's kind of how we do it, and then we kind of just work from there and figure out how to schedule people. So make sure you got somebody that'll work for you, that can be there. So
that's good. That kind of brings us into our wrap up question. Every coach that I've worked with and every coach that I've aware of, and whether it be business coach, athlete coach, anything like that, we always live by example. So what is your Saturday morning routine then?
Okay, so a Saturday morning.
Yes, because like think about it, everyone's usually off on Saturday. They got nothing going on.
Yeah,
And it's the slacker day.
So Saturdays will look a little different based on the time of the year, because football games typically are Friday night during the season. So a Saturday currently right now, and I have a morning and an evening ritual. I created this, actually it's from a template from OTA, but I created this guide for myself through this template, that has a morning and evening ritual. So I don't break from these rituals. I do them every day. The more systematic and routine that you become in your life, the more you do those things, the better and more kind of free flowing your life gets, to where it doesn't feel chaotic. I always say systems and routines are controlled chaos. That's what they do for you. So I have a morning and evening ritual that I stick to every day, which involves simple things like a quick morning workout, hygiene. So we brush our teeth, comb our hair, shower, whatever we need to do. Read a book for 30 minutes. Every morning I read a book for 30 minutes, because I found when I just wanted to read, I never actually got the time, and I was too tired of this. So now I have a set time in my morning ritual every day. Breakfast. So first and foremost, taking care of kind of kicking the day off and getting it started on a positive note, opposed to just rolling out of bed and just going about things. So getting up, really getting active, getting the energy flowing, getting a good breakfast in, so that you have those nutrients to kick your day off. Getting hydrated. Hygiene is super important. Like, and there's one thing that's crazy, that it's back in a book by JB. It's called Hate Me Now, Love Me Later. He's a coach from Last Chance U, the Netflix show. Talked to the guy on numerous occasions, great coach. But he had a rule for his players every day that was make your bed. Because it gives you a sense of accomplishment first thing in the morning, sets you off feeling good, like you already did something for the day. I'm ready to roll. So I do the morning ritual, go through those things, and then honestly, what it would typically look like on a Saturday is coaching. We have our training, our camp on Sunday, our elite performance camp. So it would look like the kids would come out. We do about a 30-minute warm up, which includes increasing tissue temperature, increasing the threshold of the ankles, band stretches, dynamic warm up, and then the kids will get a very high intensity workout in, and we'll stretch with them and then send them on. And then basically from then on for the day will be, if there's any camps or anything going on, Saturdays are usually from busy until 3, and then from then they kind of get left open because those are the days when 7-on-7s for high school football or camps, they're held on Saturdays a lot of times. Or I'll go up to Concordia, for example, and meet with a coach and hang out for a few hours. So I'll always invest after the training, but those days we tend to try to keep the ability to adapt on Saturday, because again, football is a crazy sport, and when you coach football, you're like, you could be at a million different places. So we try to, like, after 3 p.m. we try to leave it open, but that would be a typical Saturday. During the season, it'd be a little more simple, to be honest, because we got a game Friday night. We don't get home till I usually don't get done till 2 or 3 in the morning on Friday night, because after the game, I typically go home, I eat. It takes me an hour or two to wind down. And then I typically, honestly, either watch film or I go through notes, and I kind of think about the game, what happened. I might hang out with Megan for a while if she's still up, and just, it really takes me a while to wind down. So Saturday mornings in the season are really usually try to get kids up to the field and maybe have them hydrate and kind of get ice baths. And we do different things maybe on Saturdays to have them kind of recuperate from Friday's game and just kind of be up at the field with them, maybe light position training. Or so that'll be more of a Saturday during the season. So
Saturdays are still even busy for you then.
Yeah, Saturdays, Sundays, they're always busy because during the week is when you get a lot of chance to train and coach. And then the weekend is typically when you go watch your guys compete or you're going to camp. So it's like, there really never is at least for me, and I like it this way. There's never a dead time. I keep my family involved with everything. So it's like
you guys are always together.
The girls go with me everywhere, all the camps, all the games. So that's how we keep it busy and keep it like with the family, right? Keep stuff balanced. So that's days are busy. We stay busy. So the Saturdays and Sundays, what everybody typically would relax, is got to watch our guys and our girls compete. We got to go see them compete. So
you mentioned in your habit that you read for 30 minutes. Is there any particular book that you're reading right now that you'd like to recommend to any coaching stuff?
Yeah. So I'll give 2 books for everybody and end it on that note. For coaches, please go read first read Relentless and Winning by Tim Grover. He trained Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. He trains Russell Wilson right now. He is the mental coach of sports training. He is the guy who teaches you how to, as an athlete or a coach, that's the guy. That guy is incredible. I love his ways of thinking, the way he views things. Check out those 2 from a business standpoint. I love Small Giants. It's a book called Small Giants. Zingerman's, Ann Arbor. For everybody who knows Zingerman's, that's one of the main features of that book. That's a great business book for those businesses who are trying to build and get bigger, but without sacrificing who they are and their authenticity. So both amazing books. Definitely recommend them.
Awesome. Is there anything you'd like to add to anyone watching, whether it pertains to business or direct athlete coaching, or where we can find you on social media?
So you can find me on social media. You can find our page at Kennedy Health and Wellness. We have a group and a page. I would prefer you guys follow the group because there's a Kennedy Health and Wellness in Virginia. We kind of get mixed up with the pages. So, but there is a group that you can join. I have a sports performance group. It's just Coach K Sports Performance and Training. If you look that up on Facebook, it'll come right up. That's a private group for anybody who works with me. And I share a lot of kind of exclusive, in-depth stuff on that page. So a lot of training tidbits and a lot of different things that the exclusive people who work with me kind of get. And again, if you want to join that, send the request, join. We're on Instagram at Kennedy Health and Wellness. And I just hope everybody got something out of this. That's always important to me, that maybe a coach or a student athlete even took something out of this, whether it's, be intentional or how to run their business or any of those things. So, and I want to thank everybody. Thank you guys for having me. I'm blessed to be on this first episode. I'm glad to always talk coaching. So, and also catch me on Pillar Talk with Brain Jerk here in a few weeks. So if you guys want to hear a little more coaching, I'm going to dive into even some more personal stuff on there and be another chance to talk to you guys. So thank you.
Well, I definitely appreciate you on here, and you will be welcome back anytime. And hopefully,
Appreciate
you
it.
and Meg combined will be a good
Yeah,
good
we'll get her
interview.
on.
Yeah, we'll break her imposter syndrome for sure.
Yep.
And then our next viewing will be not next Monday, but the weekend after. And we will be interviewing DJ Betty, which is a local DJ. She focuses on karaoke, DJing, and events. So that'll be a great interview. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yep. Thank you guys for having me.